The Washington City paper ran an article on its website this week questioning why you wouldn't name the crews involved in a string of shootings in the Petworth neighborhood. City paper claimed that you asked people at a community meeting to refrain from naming the gangs identified in their blogs and community listservs. What's your reasoning behind that request?
Well, there's a lot of inaccuracies in the story, but I did a presentation for the community members in which I not only laid out the gangs that are involved. They're not crews, they're gangs. I laid out the gangs that are involved, the areas that they operate in, and what's been going on back and forth between these gangs, including some shootings and some homicides, and then multiple sounds of gunshots that we've been investigating between these two gangs. And I asked them not to release the names of the gangs. I asked the press that were there. They were welcome to stay. I asked the participants in the audience to not release the names of the gangs because they do seek notoriety. They do seek some attention. Anybody that thinks they don't is just not paying attention. This is how they gain status. Now, obviously, nobody has to abide by my request. It was a simple request. People are asking me how we can improve public safety. That's a good recommendation. Don't give these gang members any notoriety. They don't deserve it, and it only empowers them. So, and the city paper, I will say, got it wrong anyway when they named the gang. So that's at least one good thing.
Well, I think we in the media believe that transparency is very important and that being able to name the gangs should be understood. I think a lot of people don't quite understand the gang psychology that you're describing here that says if you name them and you think that they will shrink because they've been named, no. If you name them, that gives them notoriety. The
street credibility. It's called street credibility.
The other gangs down the street will now know that we're dangerous.
The reasonable position for a news organization to take is that if a gang is involved in a specific kind of crime and that's part of the investigation, then we're going to probably name them because they are. But if you're giving a community thing and you don't want to just, if it's not immediate to a crime, then why name them? I agree with you. You don't have to name them in that kind of setting you just described. But if they're involved in a crime, then I think you need to name them.
Well, the other important thing about transparency, though, remember, I could have asked the press to leave. I could have done this a private briefing with the community. But, I left it up to them to make a decision based on what they heard in that presentation. And I thought they were all very respectful and made a good decision.
So if gang activity gets media attention, you say it emboldens the gangs rather than causes them to want to withdraw?
Yeah.
Well, naming the gangs, yes, because then it gets them some credibility on the street.
Now, can I just ask you in general, how serious is it isolated gang? And some people will say we've got dozens of gangs all over town. I agree with you. Let's don't call them crews. They are gangs. Or do we have huge numbers of gangs? We have a few active ones and some wannabes. How serious is the gang issue in the city of Washington?
That's a great question, and I get that all the time. Over the past 4 years, for many, many years, we referred to them as neighborhood crews, loosely knit organizations. So what I did starting in 2007 is using the Gang Intelligence Unit and a few other units, let's just stop calling everybody that hangs out together in a particular neighborhood where there's drug dealing and violent crime a gang member from that neighborhood. Let's validate who are truly gang members, and there's a criteria to validate what is a gang member. A gang member is, there's about 8 or 9 different criteria that we use, but they have to be involved in criminal activity. Most of them will self-report or have tattoos or name, the name of their gang. So, we don't just throw you in a book and say you're a gang member because you live in a certain neighborhood. We actually validate these gang members based on their criminal activity and their associations. So, I'd say right now, this is the way I'd classify it across the city. We've got about 4 gang conflicts that we feel are always very volatile. They will be quiet. There'll be no problems for months and months and months. And then it just takes one incident to start the conflict between the gangs. And so we have about 4 that we watch very closely because they're just very volatile. We know that the gang members in those groups that are validated have a lot of violent gun crimes, and they, typically once something starts, right now, currently in the city, I got 2 serious gang conflicts going on. Obviously, down in the area of the shooting on U Street is one, and another one up in the 4th District area, which was the subject of the meeting.